it is my honor to introduce our keynote speakers, a native Texan who spent nearly 12 years in the United States Army, including 7 years in the 3rd Special Forces Group at Fort Bragg out of North Carolina. On April 8, 2008, this American hero lost his leg to a sniper fire during the Battle of Shook Valley. He continued to fight alongside his brothers for 4 more hours, earning him a Silver Star and a Purple Heart. Post-injury, he attended Special Forces Sniper School. Upon graduation, he became the first amputee to be a Green Beret sniper, and I don't think there's a lot of people that could do that on 2 legs, but let alone do that on an amputee. That's just somebody that's just not going to quit at anything, I can guarantee you that. Additionally, on top of that, he runs marathons, of course, completes the death marches. Those death marches are volunteering to suffer through all sorts of obstacle courses, and again, on top of that, he continues to climb mountains, so figuratively and literally. In 2017, he founded the Gallantry Global Logistics, a service-disabled veteran minority-owned logistics company that specializes in shipments of consequence and whose purpose is to provide the next mission to veterans after their service to this nation. So he continues to serve us, frequently travels the country speaking to veterans organizations, corporations, and the public about leadership, excellence, overcoming adversity, using his motto, lean forward, fight hard, and he strongly believes his biggest accomplishment is marrying his beautiful wife, Amy, and having their 4 wonderful children, Emma, Sam, Andy, and Hannah, all between the ages of 12 and 21. That's great. And they also reside nearby in Gunter, Texas. So at this time, I'm going to step aside. There's a video that we're going to shoot, and we'll enjoy it. And thank you all for having me again. So look forward to working with y'all.
Be advised, you have Hog 5-3 still on station, and you have Hog 5-5 en route to RIP with that aircraft, over. Cleared in hot on all buildings. Cleared hot. All right, boys, cleared hot, all the buildings to the east. This way. Roger, I confirm 9 casualties, over.
Thank you. What you just heard, that wasn't Hollywood, that was hell. Right? That wasn't an actor in a sound booth reading a script that was going to be on TV one day. That was my team leader calling close air support to keep us alive. Right? That was a day where my a team of Green Berets never tried harder than they'd ever tried in their life. That was a day that I'd never given more effort than I'd ever given in my life. But despite all of that, I find myself the next day waking up in a hospital bed, terrified to look down. Right? Terrified because I knew the next moment that I see, whether I have 1 leg or 2, it was inevitable for the rest of my life. And I don't want to know that answer. Right? I was procrastinating just like I am right now. I didn't want to know the inevitability of what that was going to mean to me. And before I tell you about that moment, let's rewind 24 hours to where me and my Special Forces team of Green Berets, which, by the way, do y'all even know what Green Berets are? No, we're not like Navy SEALs, right? We don't have good hair and write books. Yeah. Please let there be a Navy guy in there. It's so much more fun when the Navy guy. Some people are scared to laugh at a Navy SEAL joke, think there's going to be a SEAL jump out of the table and get you or something, but yeah, let's go, yeah. All right, so what a Green Beret is, we are the masters at unconventional warfare, right? We do the cool guy stuff like blow indoors, jump out of airplanes, all the things that you see in the movies. But what you don't see, instead of them giving us a mission and saying, hey, go get this bad guy, right? Like sending 100 guys into a village to go get that bad guy, they say, hey, we're going to send 15 Green Berets to go train 1,000 so they can fight for themselves. Right? You're going to go into this unpermissible environment of people. You don't know which ones wants to kill you or feed you. But it's your job to figure it out and then get close to those people, then train those people to fight for themselves. right? It's biblical, right? Instead of giving a man a fish, he feeds for a day rather than teaching him how to fish, he feeds forever. That's what our job is to do. In fact, whenever John F. Kennedy allowed us to don the coveted Green Beret in the 1960s, that was our purpose, right? To go to Vietnam and train the Vietnamese so they can help fight the Viet Cong for themselves, right? That's the masters of unconventional warfare that I'm talking about. In fact, you can't even raise your hand and say, hey, I think I got what it takes. I'm going to go to Green Beret school and see if I flunk out. No, it doesn't go that way, right? You go to a selection process, right? It's 25 days long of selecting whether or not you have what it takes. You know, in fact, like, you know, the Navy SEALs have Hell Week. Well, we have Hell Month. Not that it's a competition, but I'm just saying, math doesn't lie. Right, 25 days, there's 400 candidates that started day one of selection. Less than 100 were standing. About 80 candidates were actually finished at the end. Only about half of us were selected. Imagine being that guy at the end of all those 25 days, getting your butt kicked, and all of a sudden they say, you're strong, but we don't have what it takes. They had to walk home. So out of those 40 to 45, maybe 50 that got selected to start Green Beret school, only half of them actually get to don that coveted Green Beret. So when I say it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life, I mean that it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, and that amounted to nothing the day that I got shot. Right, so we're in this aircraft. Think about what it was like, right? Sorry, I can't see what we're up right there. Do we have me in front of a helicopter? All right, cool. That's a cool photo, isn't it? Quick story, I didn't even do anything that day. That's why they took the photo. We was going to go on a mission. We got in that aircraft that's behind me. We all, jacked up on Mountain Dew because we're about to do bad things to bad people, and we got spun down. The guy's like, hey, guy left the target. Mission's canceled. You can stand down. And I'm like, what? I got dressed up for nothing? I pulled my phone out. Hey, man, take my picture. So, that's what you get from it. In fact, this ain't even in my speech normally. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I just feel like I'm opening up, all right? But if you look on my right shoulder, there's that "Don't Mess with Texas" patch, right? If you haven't thought that maybe I would get made fun of in my military career, because my name is John Wayne Walding. I was born on the 4th of July, and I'm a Green Beret from Groesbeck, Texas. Let's go, right? Amen to that. I think there's a bald eagle that flies over every time I say that, But I always ask my dad, I never will forget the day I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, why'd you name me John Wayne? Thought I was going to get this great story, about, in fact, the young kids, if you don't know who John Wayne is, he was a theologian back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, look him up. But yeah, I thought I was going to get this story about how great of American John Wayne is, and, I want you to model what America stands for and all that stuff. I kid you not, this is not a joke. This is just giving you news. This is what my dad said. I don't know, had a cool birthday, needed a cool name. I'm like, I'm glad you thought about it, a-hole. I don't have to live up with it. And if you know, John Wayne did the movie The Green Berets for all of those movie buffs. So imagine me with that name trying to become a Green Beret. I did a lot of push-ups for that guy. Anyway, I digress. We ain't even started yet. All right, so we're in this aircraft. Think about that aircraft that we're in right now. And we're with the Afghani Commandos. Right, the Afghani Commandos is the special forces for the Afghani National Army. Right? In fact, they have a selection process just like we did. They've got all the same things that we do. They're just Afghanis and not us, right? I say all the same things, generally speaking, like you would think a third world country would have, right? And meaning an M4, not an AK-47, right? They actually have body armor, right? That we teach them how to use some of the technology that we have. So they were the best fighting force that Afghanistan had. And there were some studs. I mean, absolute. In fact, I never will forget day one, calling roll. I see Muhammad Ali's name on the roster. I'm like, Muhammad Ali, where you at? Let me see you. And this little brown guy like this tall, right? Give you a thumbs. I'm like, you have no idea who you named after. I'm like, well, maybe he was named after you. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, that was pretty awesome to see Muhammad Ali, and he was our machine gunner, right? He was a stud. We had another guy named Joe Pesci. All right, that wasn't his real name, but that's what he called me because he looked just like Joe Pesci with a beard. Again, that little brown guy that tall. And every time we go to formation, I was like, Joe Pesci, what's up? And he looked at me, gave me the thumbs up. He said, John Wayne. Like really, we had that rapport. And that's why I tell these stories, because we fought with these men. We literally lived across the street from these men. And I was about 6 months into this deployment, and we've gotten such good rapport with them that when we would stack up on a door to go blow it and do what we're supposed to do, they'd actually stop and say, hey, this is our country, we got it. Right, week one, they're like, yeah, American, go ahead and do what you're doing. 6 months in, they realize we're there to help them. Right, they realize that we get it, that we left our families to go free them. And that's the rapport that we had. Right, so go back into this helicopter. If you ever been on one, think about what it was like at 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun's still down. It's April 6th, right? April 6th in Jalalabad Airfield. That quite literally that airfield that's behind me. Those rotors start to spin, and when those rotors are spinning, it starts getting chaotic. Who's here ever been around helicopters? Right? They either like to take off and fly forward or turn off, right? There's no standing in the center. And they're just rocking, and you're inside that helicopter. You got your headset on, right? Your Peltor headsets. And in that headset, it's also communication. It's not just hearing protection, right? So you're getting 3 different radio communications, right? You internally with your team, right? I was the assault team 1 leader, right? It was my job to be the first guys into that village, lock down a house, maintain either a command and control element or a combat casualty care place, right? So triple C place or C2 element. So I was focusing with my guys, making sure we were all squared away. We were talking to the battlefield commander, talking to the aircraft, and all these real-time data. Is the guy there? And then you hear those 3 words, execute, execute, execute. That's when we lift off the ground. When we lifted off those grounds, that's when we were living. Right? Not like the Matthew McConaughey, Livin, like there's nothing wrong. God bless his ministry. When they took off, I didn't know I was going to be alive when they landed. Now that's living. When those wheels was above that HESCO barrier like you see behind me there, I didn't know if an RPG was going to come over that and kill us. Right? When you have that intense presence that you don't know if you're going to be alive for the next minute, the next month, the next year, that's living. And guess what? It's intoxicating. That's one of the reasons why veterans have a hard time transitioning, because that feeling of intense presence, you can't drink it, snort it, smoke it, or eat it. But you love it. You love that feeling of not knowing you're getting those phase line calls as you're going to that objective, ready to go do bad things to bad people, right? Hey, phase line Alpha, check. Phase line Bravo, check. You're getting your time hacks, 10 minutes. You're turning around, checking your guys, 10 minutes. You get the 5-minute hack. Turn around 5 minutes. At 2 minutes, you're stood up. You're facing out the runway. 30 seconds, stand by. When it said 30 seconds, stand by, the whole world just goes slow because you can see where you're going to exfil and you're not thinking about anything else but running out the back of that helicopter, and we hear go. And that's exactly what I do. I go to run out the back of that helicopter, but guess what? We're not even on the ground. Because of the boulders and the rocky terrain in this valley, which is called a wadi. So if I say wadi again, that's just what they're called over there. So it was so boulderous there that the aircraft, it couldn't even land. We had to jump 10 to 15 feet out of the back of this helicopter with 60 pounds of kit. Right? What did Mike Tyson eloquently say? Everybody's got a plan to get punched in the face. That's what it was like for us, that mission. Right out the gate. I thought we were going to lose probably 20 to 30% of our element just on sprained knees, twisted ankles, something of that nature. Like you would think that someone with 60 pounds is jumping 15 feet onto rocks. Fortunately, no one got injured. We got up, we went toward the objective. When we were climbing that mountain, that's literally what we were doing, climbing. Right? Who's here ever been in the mountains? Right? There's no escalator up there, is there? There's no handrails, there's no ADA accessible, nothing. There's just goat trails, game trails that just switch back up left and right, and you got to jump up to the next terrace or level or whatever it is, all the way till you got to get in a fight. And I never will forget going up these mountains. It was eerily quiet. You got any hunters in the audience? You know when you're hunting, you don't want silence and still. You want a little bit of wind. You don't want too much wind, but you also don't want none, right? You want something to make it sound like everything's okay. Maybe a dog barking in the background, right? Maybe someone burning, that morning's food or whatever it is. It was silent. So we knew there was something happening. And I never will forget being 40 yards from my position to that first building in. Think about my mindset at that point, right? I've already jumped out of the back of the helicopter, all the good stuff, and I see that's my job. Lock that house. By the way, that's security, right? You get into that house now, you got some type of cover and concealment to where no matter what happens, if you get a team of Green Berets in a house, nobody's coming in or out of it. I can guarantee you that. But we got opened up on with an avalanche of gunfire. And I don't say avalanche to beat myself on the chest or sound dramatic. That's literally what we were fighting from day one. And to put it in perspective, I've been, probably speaking for about 10 minutes now, right? Within the first 10 minutes of rounds fired, we already had CK, our lead interpreter. He got shot in the face, died on impact. Would you think that our combat effectively didn't drastically change then? What about being surrounded by Afghanis that's trying to help you and you can't speak Afghani? Right? CK was an absolute hero. Early 20s, his whole family was murdered by the Taliban and had been fighting his entire young adult life, and he gave it to try to free his country. That man is a hero. In fact, if you ever have the chance to talk to an Afghani interpreter here, please go shake their hands and please go listen to the stories, because I guarantee you they know what a bad day looks like. I guarantee you their patriotism and care for family and country doesn't add up to about 1,000 of what Americans do. They care. So CK got shot in the face, died right on impact. My RTO, you know what that is, right? The radio transmitting operator, kind of a big deal in combat. Got to have somebody on the phone talking to hire. He got shot in the hip. Initial assessment on him, 20 minutes to live. So what does my mind think? Dylan's dead, right? I just do the backwards math, right? We got some military people in here, right? Military's backwards planning, right? Time on target this time. Well, what do I need to backwards plan to doing something right now? So whenever I heard 20 minutes, I knew there's no way we're getting off the mountain in 20 minutes. I knew there's no way we're going to suppress the enemy enough to get a medevac bird in there, to get him on the aircraft, to get the medevac bird out of there, to get him in a hospital. So Dylan's dead. Not long after that, I heard Luis Morales, our 18 Fox, Special Forces Intelligence Officer, another kind of important guy, right? He calls me personally on my headset. It says, "John, come get me, brother." That may not be a big deal to you. That's a huge deal to me, and the military people in here know that, right? Because you don't say John on the radio. You've got proper radio etiquette, right? You got call signs. Bravo 1, this is Echo 1, over. Right? Charlie 2, this is Charlie 3, over. He's saying, "John, come get me." So what do you think my mind's at? Well, Dylan's dead. CK's already dead. Luis is hurt so bad, he ain't even talking right. And by the way, he was an 18 Echo, which is a communications guy before he was an 18 Fox, so I know he's probably dying. That's what I mean by an avalanche of gunfire. But you know what I did? I went to work. Right? Entrepreneurs that are in this room, those that are trying to figure out what this state can do to help you, you go to work. Because there's a lot of noise in combat, just like there's a lot of noise in building your business, isn't it? Right? Sometimes physical or literal, but a lot of times figurative, right? Noise about, I don't know what's in my P&L for this week, right? Noise about what's in the bank account. Can I run payroll? Is this guy going to shoot me? Is what is going to happen here? That's all noise. What do? You go to work. You find out what the thing right in front of you that you can accomplish, and you go punch it in the face. And that's what I did that day. I had all that noise, and I said, what can I affect? And I just started putting heads down the best that I could. And it worked pretty great for about 2 hours. After about 2 hours in this firefight, I never will forget getting shot in the right leg, and I fell forward. And it was the most pain I've ever felt in my life. And as I rolled over, right, so I fell forward like this, and I rolled over my leg, it was just hanging at a 45-degree angle, only by an inch of flesh. Imagine what it was like for me sitting on my butt looking at that leg and having the most pain I've ever felt in my life. You know what I did? I did like what any human would do. I cried, "Oh my God!" I looked at Dylan, or I looked at Dave. I said, "Dave, what's going to happen?" I had terror inside of me because I'm a human being. I didn't tell my sergeant like in the movies that I didn't have time to bleed. Right? I didn't grab my green beret and just do this and say, "Okay, I'm not hurt. I'm going to go back to war." I did what humans do. But you know what I did after that? I went to work. There's going to be a theme through here. I don't know if you've noticed that. I went to work no matter what else was going around me. My job at that time, stop the bleeding. Right? My job at that time, no matter all the training I had from being able to shoot this, blow that up, jump out of here, was keep me alive. And I'll teach it to you real quick because it's pretty simple. You want to know heavy metal medicine? This is what it needs. You need to be a trauma doc. Air goes in and out, blood goes round and round. If you can keep air going in and out, or blood around and around, you can keep somebody or yourself alive long enough to keep somebody a lot smarter than you to help them. That's all you need to know. So I knew blood was not going round and round. Blood was going down on the ground. So I grabbed my tourniquet. Y'all know what a tourniquet is, right? It's that little strap with a stick that you just start turning, and the more it hurts, the more it works. That's a good little slogan, right? The other thing I did is I asked for help. I knew I didn't have what it take at that moment. I knew I was jacked up on Mountain Dew, right? Because I'm looking at my leg and everything. And by the way, how are you going to put a tourniquet on when it's just hanging? So I looked at my buddy Dave. Dave, I need your help. I can't do this without you. Come here. You know what he did? He went to work. Straight to me. By the way, his first deployment. First time on our ODA, our Special Forces team. He met us downrange. Imagine that guy was all jacked up on Mountain Dew. He had never been in this. Heck, my team sergeant had never been in this, and he's the coolest guy I knew. But he blocked out the noise, and he helped me with my tourniquet, and it worked. In fact, at one point after getting the tourniquet to work, I could see the blood was stopped, so I grabbed my leg. I actually folded up into my crotch, and I tied it to my thigh. Right, because that's what I knew to do. How do you splint the wound? Every time I would move, it would flop on a rock or grab onto something and just injure all over again. So I literally had to carry my leg down the mountain. But after I did that, I started going back to work. And in fact, I always tell the story that it had to have been 30 minutes after getting shot. Right, 30 minutes. And it dawned on me, I had a lot of pain at that moment. And I said, you know what, the morphine injectors? Right, it's kind of like an EpiPen. You stab it into you, a needle comes in, gives you some Dr. Feel-Good. Well, I had one on my kit, and I'm like, well, I got 50-50 shot, what side down? So I asked my medic, my Special Forces medic, Ron, because I live by the creed that I'm dumb, but I'm almost dumb, or I know I'm dumb, so that almost makes me smart. Think about it. I know I'll do some dumb stuff, so I'm going to take me out of it and have somebody help me. So I was like, hey, Ron, what side down? He's like, purple. Cool. I went just like this, and the needle went in my thumb. Woo, you want to talk about a mixture of rage and pain. I literally grabbed my pen. I threw it at Ron. I was like, you had one job, Ron. One job, and you messed it up. And I'm not kidding you. We were laughing on the side of a mountain to give you a glimpse into how Green Beret's mindset. Maybe that's twisted. I don't know. That's just who we are. But they were laughing because I was cussing my doc, telling him I'm going to beat him with my leg, and he sucks at life and all the good stuff. I was a lot more colorful words than that, but I can't say that here, But since I'm on Ron, I'll give you one more story after that. I really do love the guy, but anyway, I never will forget after, the incident, as we will just call it, it dawned on me again that no one's ever checked on me, right? The only guy keeping me alive is me. And again, I'm not qualified for that, right? So I'm sitting there, I just did my thing, hand felt good, leg was a little shaky, right? And so I was like, hey, Ron, come check me out, ABCs, make sure I did all this stuff right. You're the medic, I'm not. And I never will forget his little peanut head. He was working on Dylan's hip at the time, right? So he had his, hands full, literally. And he looked up at me and he gave me a thumbs up. He said, you're good. I'm not good, Ron. Like, come check me out, Ron. And there we go. I'm cussing him again and telling him he sucks at life and everything. But we were laughing, about it. But obviously, Ron knew what he was doing, right? Because if I was well enough to cuss him, I'm not dying. Right, but I wanted to feel special. Who here likes to feel special? Just me? All right. But that's when I see my team sergeant get shot. Right, my team sergeant's the guy that's going to get us out of there. Right, no disrespect to the officers or any that's in the room, but it's that NCO that's been in the Army for 16 years, started out in the 82nd Airborne. After he went there, he was in 3rd Special Forces Group, been to all the cool guy schools, like in my mind, Chuck Norris wears Scott Ford underwear. Right? For the kids, if you don't know Chuck Norris, he was also a theologian back in the 90s. Start with Walker, Texas Ranger, and go from there. I see Scott get shot closer from me to you. Like, I want to remind the room, the battlefield that I was on that day was not this big room that we're in. We were on game trails, literally fighting shoulder to shoulder with your brother. So when I say I saw my team sergeant getting shot, I felt that breastplate when it hit that bullet. And then he dropped to the ground. And that's when I thought, okay, we're probably going to die. Right? Luis is shot. Dylan is shot. I'm shot. CK is already dead. There's only 10 of us on the mountain. Do the backwards math again of how many people's there to help. Fortunately, Scott's as cool as I say he is. He got up and he continued to fire. right? He continued to fire left-handed, right? So the buttstock's in his left shoulder, and he's just rocking and rolling. Within 5 minutes, I see that left shoulder just fillet off the backside. He got shot in the shoulder, right? And that's whenever I realized just how bad we were getting into. And fortunately, the powers that be thought the same thing, and that's whenever they started dropping ordnance on our location, right? They diverted nearly every air asset in theater, not just Afghanistan, but all of the global war on terror was coming to us to try to keep us alive. Right? And the ordnance that they were dropping, it wasn't just like a close air support gun run from a AH-64 Apache. Right? Think about a 1,000-pound bomb. Think about a 2,000-pound bomb. If you don't know what a danger close for a 2,000-pounder is, it's over 10 football fields stacked end to end, or a major terrain feature between us. They were dropping them 100 yards on top of our heads. Imagine what that feels like when that enormous explosion happens and then it gets silent, right? And it gets dark, right? Like the movie 300 where the arrows blacked out the sun. That's what happens in the combat when you're in a mountain and above you blows up. And that's how we got off the mountain. We drop a bomb, we roll off the backside of a cliff, drop a bomb, roll off the backside of a cliff, wash, rinse, repeat all the way to the base of the mountain. In fact, the first helicopter that came in, the medical evacuation bird, right? We call them medevac birds. You've probably seen them, the little red cross on the side of a Black Hawk helicopter, right? That was the first thing that came in to get us. And just like you heard that radio traffic earlier, I actually have radio traffic of the pilot saying, I'm hit, I'm going south. He literally got shot. Not an aircraft, well, he got shot too, but he got hit. And so now we're in the middle of this wadi having to get drugged back to safety again. And the second helicopter to come get us out, it was just an air reaction force, right? It was just another Black Hawk helicopter that had some gunners on there that they landed, dropped off, literally threw us onto, and we flew off. But the damage that aircraft took to get us out of there, we couldn't even make it 30-minute flight. We made it about 5. So again, what do you think I felt like where I'm like, oh, thank you, baby Jesus, I'm getting out of here, right? And then beep, 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 we had to do a crash landing because that aircraft took so much damage getting us on there. Just that a short amount of time that was on there on the ground getting us out. Fortunately, he crash landed good enough to keep us alive. We got a third aircraft, cross-loaded onto that, and then we went to Bagram. We went to Sadabad first is where we went. And imagine what it was like for me getting rolled into that gurney, into that combat hospital, and you see a kid. Right? We forget that war is a young person's game. Right? Any kid, male or female, can join the military at 17. Right? Just have a parent's permission. You can go to your little medic course, that is, I say little, you can go to the basic combat medical course that's a few months long and then be in combat saving lives. And during the global war on terror, guess what? That's exactly what was happening. Right? You have these patriot children that believe in that American dream and they want to go fight for her. And they sign up, and now that kid is looking at this guy like an extra from a Saw 5 movie, and he's overwhelmed. Right? What do I do with this guy? And I never will forget the terrifying moment when I stopped breathing. I don't know what it was for, whether it was the elevation change, the morphine, whatever it was, but not one, but both my lungs collapsed. So imagine being so terrified, I'm closer for me to you, and I can't yell, hey, I can't breathe. But I do what I thought was the international sign, which was grabbing him with my finger doing this. And it worked. That's the good news. So the light bulb, I saw the light come off in his eyes. The second thing, unfortunately for me, the only way he knew to fix it was to give me not 1, but 2 chest tubes with no anesthesia. And if you don't know what that is, imagine grabbing a knife, cutting between my rib cage and stuffing a hose into my lungs so it can breathe. And I threw him over me, the first one. And the last thing I remember blacking out when they had about 5 guys come over to me to hold me down for that second one. And that's whenever the last thing I remember. And before I go any further, I always forget this. I want to make sure you know, because our motto as Green Berets is the quiet professionals. Right? We're taught, shut your mouth, don't be a SEAL. Come on, you can laugh at me. Makes me feel so good when you do that. 15 Green Berets went up against 250 insurgents that day. 10 of us were on the mountain that day. What happened? 10 Silver Stars were awarded. 2 of those were actually upgraded to the Medals of Honor. There were 8 Purple Hearts that were awarded. 10 of us on the mountain, 8 got shot. Do the math on that. Who's had that day? You have? My man, let's talk after this. We got some stories to swap. I want to hear that one. The Air Force Cross was awarded. But 0 Americans killed. How awesome is that? How awesome of a fighting force where 15 guys can go up against 250 and win. Americans, that's who. But 0 die, except for CK. God bless his heart and rest his soul. So that was a pretty cool story, right? Everybody wants to know about April 6th, 2008, right? Where the most decorated special forces team in history went up against insurmountable odds, blah, 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 blah. That's not why I'm here today, because no one ever asked me about April 7th. Right? Nobody ever says, hey, John Wayne, tell me about the day you woke up terrified in the hospital. They say, tell me the war story. Because the war story is not going to teach you anything other than we're awesome. Right? America's awesome. We can kill people better than anybody on the planet. Trust me. And that's good, by the way. But the reason why I'm here is to teach you what happens when life gives you that proverbial punch in the face. That's the moment whenever I woke up, terrified to look down. Right? Terrified because as this 27-year-old Green Beret, I knew the significance of what my life was going to be. I had my entire life ahead of me, and I wanted to know, am I going to have one leg or am I going to have 2? And let me tell you something. When I looked down, I learned the meaning of the word can't. When I saw just 1 foot was sticking out, I realized for the rest of my life, I can't walk. No matter how much effort I give, because by the way, the effort is what got me where I am today. Right? I'm just some redneck kid from Groesbeck, Texas, had nothing going for me. I always say I'm not the biggest, strongest, smartest, and fastest, but you're not outworking me. Right? I knew my effort was going to get me where I needed to go, and now I know there's no more effort. No push-up's going to get me to do a walk, to take a step. No sit-ups are ever going to get me to take a step. And so when I feel like, you know what I did? I cried. I cried out to God, why me? Who ever done that? Just me? I guess it's a confession. My girl. Here's the thing that helped me overcome that word can't. There's 3 things. The first one, believe this. It's God. God is real. God loves me, and God is the reason why I'm standing here today. Amen to that. If you don't believe me, there's no tactical handbook that says, hey, 15 guys are going to go up against 250, and 6.5 hours later, not only are they still alive, but they win. But with God's, it happens. Right? There's no medical handbook you'll ever read that says a guy's going to get his leg shot off, and 4.5 hours later on a battlefield, not only is that guy still alive, but one day he's going to run a marathon. But with God's, it happens. And you know what that did for me? Because, by the way, I gave it to him on the battlefield. This is not figurative. I never will forget. I know what it feels like to die. Literally, the life come out of me. And guess what? It's not scary. It's comforting. All the pain that I had, it was just go to sleep and it'll go away. Just lay your head back and you won't hurt anymore. And at that moment, I said, God, this is all I got. If I make it out of here, it's because of you. I'm just going to keep fighting and find out if you'd make it deemed alive or not. And when I woke up and I realized that he got me out of there, it just galvanized my faith. And it changed that question of why me to God, what are you teaching me? Right? What is the lesson for taking this leg? Because I didn't give it to you. The lesson is you always grow through struggle. And I didn't learn that day one. I didn't learn that day 5 years. It took time and time and time. Pray for patience, room. I don't pray for my troubles to go away. I pray for God to give me the shoulders strong enough to bear his yoke and the patience to endure. And that's what I've learned, that this struggle is good, that we have, unfortunately, this negative connotation to the word struggle, right? We get dealt this fallacy of comfort, right? This lie of retire. You are never retired from work, right? The things that this struggle's taught me, guess what? First and foremost, gratitude. Hey, who here is grateful to be alive? I know I am. Come on. Hey, who here is grateful for every single step that you take in life? Every one. You have no idea how good I feel doing this right here. I've gone in tears before because, God, I'm glad I'm walking with no pain. And I hope you find that intense relationship with gratitude. Right? When y'all leave here today, and you're probably going to hit some traffic, ain't you? What are you going to do? Be grateful that you had some place to be? And a car to get there in? Or are you going to say, oh, I'm not going to get home as quick as I want? Right? This world, again, has taught you about chasing happiness. Right? Just do what makes you happy. Just find what makes you just be happy. That's no big deal. Just whatever's happy. Well, guess what? Happiness is tied to happenings. Right? If something good happens, you're going to be happy. Something bad happens, what happens? You're going to be sad. Right? We all know this as Cowboys fan, right? 90s, we was happy. 25 years later, I don't even, I'm where Jerry Jones don't want me. I don't even care. I'm not mad anymore. Who ever been in that relationship? Babe, I'm not angry. I just don't care. So what I mean by that is if you put yourself at the center of your joy, you're going to always let yourself down. So stop chasing happy, start chasing gratitude. Right? And that's what this leg taught me, is that intense gratitude. Another thing this leg has taught me, it's humility. What do you think that 27-year-old Green Beret got fed the first time he got in a wheelchair? He got fed a humble pie, didn't he? Bigger than that table you're sitting at. And it didn't taste good. And I didn't want to eat it. But I had one the next day, and I had one the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And it's taught me the value of thinking less of yourself. Right? Here's the best way I've ever put humility be put is like humility, it's not thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. Right? Think about if the next time you want to change the world, believe it ain't about you. You want to change the world? The next time you go into a room, stop looking for somebody and say, oh, I know that guy. I need to go get in touch with that guy because I know he's important. And I'm going to go snuggle up, tell him he's awesome and all the kind of things and see what's going to happen. Right? Or I'm going to go over to her. I know she just got a promotion and I want to do the same thing she just did. I'm going to go check up and see what she's doing. How about you go into a room and you look at him. He's like, you know what? I just heard his dad's in the hospital. Let me go check. Right? Or I know she just had her kid get her arm broke. I'm going to go check on her. Or the weirdo that's by himself. And by the way, if you don't know I'm talking about you, then maybe you're the weirdo. I don't know. Go to them and do a buddy check. Say, hey, how are you doing? That's going to change the world, right? Be the light that shines in the darkness. Pour into people. Don't drain them. But it takes humility to get there, right? It takes humility to think that it's not about you, it's about the team. Second, or the third thing that thing has helped me is it's vulnerability. Hey, alpha men and women, I'm sure we got some alpha women in here too, ain't that right? You want to know what the most manliest thing, the most alpha thing I've ever done? It's ask my wife for help. Right? We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. Why? Because they don't ask for help. Whether it's pride, culture, fear, whatever the reason is, they don't have it in them to look at their brother and say, brother, I didn't got this without you. Come get me. And that vulnerability that it's taught me the love that people have for you. That when you put yourself out there and they grab onto you, it's the best feeling you'll ever feel. And trust me, there will be someone that snatches your hand down. That's okay. That's their hate, not yours. Don't let, you ever heard that saying that hurting people hurt? Right? So when you put that hand out and they slap it, that's their hurt. There's nothing that you didn't do that. They did that. So don't change how you see the world. But it takes a vulnerable person to get that way. It takes the courage to say, I don't got this. Believe me, you learn that, you'll be the strongest, the most manliest, the most alpha person you've ever seen. The last thing it's taught me is intentionality. Right? This struggle, it taught me if I'm not intentional with life, it's going to go by. Right? Every single day I put this leg on, which is every single day, reminds me of the day that I could not be here. Who here just gets in that just the merry-go-round of the world, right? Where you wake up, go to work, come home, go to bed. Wake up, go to work, come home, go to bed. Wake up, go to work, go to home, go to bed. If you never look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to go be awesome today, you're never going to be awesome today. If you never look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to stop blaming people for my problems, you're always going to blame people for your problems. But it takes that intentionality that you have with yourself and with others to go be great, to go bless others, to go work hard, to go try the best, to do what you know God's called you to do. So be intentional, because if you do, all the other stuff is for nothing if you don't put it to action. Right? The second thing to help me overcome this injury, this word can't, it's my family. Right, I always talk about how I had 2 kids before I was shot and 2 kids after I was shot, so suck that, Taliban. I don't die, I multiply. Come on. I got that off Bebe's Kids. You everybody watch that back in the kids? Who remember Bebe's Kids? You remember them? We don't die, we multiply. My wife, she's a Green Beret of moms. Like, we homeschool our 4 kids and are just absolute great. And I thank God for her and her strength and what she does for me. And the story that I talk about with my family, it's actually not a good story. If you haven't noticed by now, I'll get real with you. What it was for me, it was whenever my son and we were in the hospital, right? So since I was in special operations, I was up in Bethesda, outside D.C., right? Walter Reed Army Medical Center is where I went. This is 2008, so that's where all the amputees went at that time. And we were in the hospital, and because I was in special ops, they gave us a cool, 2-bedroom apartment, hardwood floors. The redneck in me was like, man, this is nice. This is better than the linoleum I got, But anyway, my son, he was on, his name's Sam. I tried getting John Wayne Jr. Mom was going to have John Wayne Jr., but he was going to have a John Wayne Jr. That's how we would do it at the Waldings. But anyway, so I named him Sam Houston. So joke's on her. That's not a joke. Okay. Anyway, so Sam was on my daughter and Amy were at the grocery store, and I was in my wheelchair, had my leg off, and he was on the coffee table, and he was trying to jump off, right? Actually, he wasn't trying to jump off. I was teaching him how to be a parachute landing, airborne, right? He's a grown man. He's like 2 years old. He'll figure it out, right? So he put his feet and knees together, and he'll jump off there and do like you do whenever you land jumping out of an aircraft. And I never will forget, he actually fell. Right? So I'm in that wheelchair. I stand up, and I take that step to catch my son, but I don't have a leg. Right, and that stump lands on that hard floor, and it starts to bleed. My head hits that hardwood floor right where his does. We're 4 inches from each other. He's crying, and I'm crying. I'm not crying because of the pain, trust me. Frankly, I'm not even crying that he fell. You know why I was crying? Because I knew why he fell. And he fell because I was too doped up to catch him. Right, my reaction time wasn't good enough because of all the medicine that I was taking. Now, look, I'm not here to bash the VA or the military that say they overprescribe, that if that's what you're hearing, don't get that from here. I just want to be real with you. You know what they were giving me? Who here has heard of Percocet? Right? You actually know what's inside it? Percocet's not a medicine. That's just a name that a marketing company told the pharmaceutical company this is less scary. Right? What's in a Percocet is 325 milligrams of acetaminophen and then 5 milligrams of oxy. Right? Oxycontin, that's the good stuff everybody's wanting. They were prescribing me 80 milligrams of straight oxy 3 times a day. On top of anti-psych meds, on top of anti-inflammatory meds, on top of anti-anti meds, I was on about 12 different medication at this point. So when I say I was a zombie, that's exactly what I was. So I had a choice, room. Because let's be real, that's what life's about. Choices. You either do it or you don't. Ain't that right? You stand up and you act, or you sit down and you excuse. And guess what? The next excuse is a little bit easier. And the next excuse is a little bit easier. And at one point, you're so far away from acting, you're paralyzed in fear. So think about the importance, the significance of what right now means to you. Because right now, you can have the choice of how you're going to be when you leave. Not tomorrow, right now. Right now, you can say, I'm going to stop being passive and I'm going to stand up for myself. Right now, you can say, I'm going to stop drinking because I know that's keeping me where I need to be. Right now, you can stop lying to yourself and eating your feelings. Right now, you have that opportunity. Because right then, I had two choices, pills or pain. And I chose pain. And every day for the rest of my life, I've dealt with it. And believe this, it's the best decision I've ever done. The pain is good. Pain lets you know you're alive. Pain that lets you realize what reality is. This lie that the drug companies have told you about live a pain-free life, that's not true. And you don't want that. So strip the negative emotions tied to pain and sit in it. And I'm not, if you can't notice, I'm not talking about just physical pain. I'm talking about emotional pain, mental pain. Just sit and ask, what are you teaching me? Ask, what am I supposed to learn? And that's what has helped me. Because, by the way, I am an addict. And I thank God for that trait. Because I've got that addictive bone. I don't go in, I go all in. Right? Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. I can overdo like the Army, go be a Green Beret. Right? Or I can overdo seeing that pill bottle when it says take no more than 3 a day. And I'm like, they ain't talking to John Wayne. I'm going to have 6 and have a party. Let's go. But you know what else I have? I have the brutal honesty with myself and realizing what direction and what path each road goes down. And I don't make excuses. I don't touch this over there because I know it'll kill me. I touch this over here because I know it's going to glorify God. But it took pain for me to learn that. And it took my family to be around for me and to have that North Star. By the way, the family don't have to be blood. It can be those that want you better for knowing them. Keep them around, and you'll be better for it. Third thing, believe this. This is what helped me overcome that word. Can't. It's you. It's Americans. It's never underestimate the magnitude of what those 2 words, thank you, mean to a veteran. Trust me, if you don't believe me, ask a Vietnam guy. Right? Ask a Vietnam guy that, by the way, if you hadn't noticed, I was supposed to go to war, right? God put it in black and white for me. John Wayne, blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to go do that. Vietnam didn't. They got drafted. They manned up, didn't dodge the draft. Right? Went down range, did the best that they could, and what happened when they got back? They got spit on. They got called baby killers. Right? I know Vietnam friends of mine that said that they didn't even leave the airport in their uniform because they didn't want to get treated like a second-rate citizen. That happened here. You know what happened to me? Believe this, I got a bear hug of genuine Americans that want me to know my sacrifice was worth it. Right? Because we all have to answer that validating question when we lay our heads down. Is this worth it? Right? Is all of this that we're doing worth it? Well, the thank you that you give me is why when you say thank you for my service, I don't say you're welcome, I say you're worth it. And it's why I was the first amputee to become the Special Forces sniper. Right? I ran the Dallas Marathon. I did the Baton Death March. I did all kinds of crazy stuff. Started a business. All I want to do is help veterans. Why? Because you believed in me. And I'll never forget that love. And I'll never forget that validation of Americans that genuinely wanted me to know that it's worth it. So I'll leave you with this quick thing. I say quick. Hope y'all ain't got nothing to do. I'm kidding. Here's what I want you to get from hearing me speak today. I want you to stop being good. And I want you to start being great. Stop being good and start being great. Right? That's something different for every single one of y'all that's in here, isn't it? Right? It could be a habit that you need to get, or let's be real, it could be one you need to quit. Right? It could be a relationship that you need to grab onto and hold close, or it could be one you need to run from. Who's ever had that one, right? Huh? Just me again? Okay. Fun on Saturday, not on Monday, isn't it? Here's the challenge that I give y'all today. And I just said it earlier. Have the brutal honesty. And I mean brutal honesty when you look at yourself in the mirror and don't just say, I'm good. What's keeping you from being great? You want to know what it was for me? Again, I'll get real with you. For me, it was drinking. Right? The Army, they teach you how to deal with death, just not deal with it. Think about that statement. I can come into this room with surgical precision, even under night vision, look at you in the whites of the eyes and pull the trigger. I couldn't get that call that Ryan Savard's dead, that Willie Lubber's dead, that Aaron Bellagio's dead, that Dave Banner's dead, that Ben Bittner's dead. I could go on and on. There's over 30 names that at one point were embroidered on the center console of my truck of Green Berets and Navy SEALs that were dead. And you know what I did? I drank, right? That's what you're supposed to do. Right? Toast to the fallen. Right? Pour one out for the homies. That's just what you do. Well, the day that Chris Kyle was murdered, I was supposed to be with him. If you don't know who Chris was, he was the Navy SEAL that wrote the book American Sniper. I was the lead instructor for his company. My daughter that you see there, the youngest one, her name's Hannah Kyle. So when I say I knew him, I knew him. So when I got that call that Chris was dead, I drank Jack Daniels because that's what you're supposed to do, right? And I woke up that next morning sad. Sad that I let him down. Sad that I knew at that moment that Chris didn't have the choice of what type of husband, but I did. He didn't have the choice of what type of father to be, but I did. And that's how I'm going to honor him. That's when I realized that if their lives matter that much, we owe it to the fallen to live well. Not just live, but live well. And that's when I had that brutal honesty. Hey, what's keeping me from living well? And I thought to myself, I was 30 years old at the time, and I never once could remember me telling the boys, hey, I'm not drinking tonight. In fact, it was the opposite. Boys, we drinking tonight. Let's go. If you hadn't noticed, I'm a fun guy. Not the fight guy, I'm a fun guy. Which validated what we were doing, right? Babe, we're just having fun. Who's ever said that one? Right? Boys, we're just having fun. Nothing wrong with fun. Well, I wanted to see what the other guy looked like, and let me tell you, that was the hardest thing I've ever done, because those opioids is the strongest pull towards something. Alcohol's the most elusive. Right? Because it's okay to drink. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Right? What's the difference between one beer and two? Nothing. I mean, three's only half a six-pack. You see how that goes? And that's just what you do, right? Go fishing, better have beer with you. Barbecue, better have some beer with you. Football game, better have a beer. I don't know how you go golf without beer. You see what I'm saying? It's elusive. How do you celebrate? Right? I always love my pastor. He always talks about, I'm not against vegans. I just don't know how you celebrate. Right? When I get something good to happen, we go have a steak wrapped in bacon. What, mushroom? Like, what do you have? How do you celebrate without alcohol? That's all I know to do. Champagne. Every movie you ever see. But guess what alcohol is? It's that snake in the grass that you can walk around it all the time and it not bite you until that one time you step on it and you're dead. Either your career, your marriage, your freedom, someone else. And it was one of the hardest things. And guess what? After 13 years of sobriety, I can tell you sobriety is the best gift I ever gave myself, Room. Because now when someone dies, you know what I do? I don't go to the bottle. I take my kids to the movies. Right? I take my wife out to dinner. Guys, guess what? You do what you did to get her to keep her. Amen? But it takes sobriety, a clear head to have that intentionality, to realize you've got to pour into them. You know, this world where we just say, I'm going to go home and relax. Who's ever said that one, right? I'm going to relax, have a glass of wine. You know how I relax? I do push-ups. I go to the gym. I go for a run. That's how I relax. I move my body because there's no coincidence that a strong person mentally is a strong person. That when you're physically healthy, typically you're going to be mentally healthy. And so I make sure that's what I focus, but it took sobriety to do it. The second thing that I want you to get from hearing me speak, I'm wrapping it up, y'all. I want you to be a part of something that's bigger than you. Right, this American dream that we all talk about. I want a bigger house, bigger paycheck, bigger vacation spot, right? All this stuff, this selfie generation that we're living in. What are you doing that's bigger than that? Right, when you take that selfie, are you thinking about being selfless? Think about that. In fact, guys, you want me to teach you how to do a selfie? I'll teach you right now, all right? I've got my phone. I know, I'm a psychopath. I don't have a phone case, all right? But put your phone, women, what are you doing up here? I don't know why, but what's this? There, that's it. All right, okay, well, y'all don't do that. Men, you're going to lower it to about right here, then you're going to lower it, put it back in your pocket, and you don't take a selfie because you're a grown man. That's how you do it, all right? I'm just saying. But I tell the kids, use that moment when you take a selfie to think about being selfless. And what's the greatest example of that probably in our culture? The greatest generation, right? Like people forget that it wasn't just soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marine that won World War II. We had a big part in it. What about the Americans that spent $18 billion buying war bonds to fund the war? Right? What about people forget about Rosie the Riveter that left her house to start building Willys Jeeps, tanks, and planes? People forget that Ford, Chevy, and Dodge stopped building cars. That's crazy. What would y'all do if that happened right now? That's crazy, right? Ford, Chevy, they stopped and started building tanks, planes, and automobiles so we could fight evil that was Hitler. Why? Because we had the compelling necessity to help our brothers to our left and right because we're American and that's what Americans do. Right? That when we fought and got our freedom, by the way, we fought with blood, not just diplomacy. Men and women fought the king of a tyrant to gain the freedoms that we have here, that you can come here from any color, race, creed, or religion and be an American. That's amazing. And if you don't believe me, find somebody that's not from here and ask it what it's like for them. One of my dear friends, his name Mo, I took him to a Cowboys game. We won the game, so I'll tell you how long ago it was. I never will forget Mo telling me, John Wayne, I love America. I'm like, well, he's at a Cowboys game, so yeah, I get it. He's like, no, I'm half German and I'm half Italian. I don't have a home. He said, when I go to Germany, they say, you're not German, you're Italian. I go to Italy, it's like, you're not Italian, you're German. He said, you can come here and you can be American. That's amazing, isn't it? That flag that we all see is the biggest and brightest beacon for hope that's ever existed, and we should never forget that. Right, that Teddy Roosevelt eloquently said that there is no 50-50 with being an American. You either are or you're not. Right, and you want to bring the country together? Let's start at our identity of what do we call ourselves? We call ourselves American. Right, I always joke to say I'm 100% Texan because my mom, she's Mexican, and my dad's a roughneck, oil and tacos. How cool would that kind of be if my dad was the Mexican and I'd be Juan Wayne Huerta? That'd be pretty neat, right? Wouldn't have the same ring, but that'd be pretty awesome. You'll never hear me refer to myself as Mexican American. You know why? Because when I got shot, who stepped up? Americans. That's what my identity is. I am an American. I love my Mexican heritage. I love the culture, the people, my family in Victoria, all of them, but we are American. And realize that 250 years ago when we got these freedoms, y'all don't realize the freedoms that we have. You know it's crazy that you can't wash your car in the driveway in Germany? That's crazy. In France, I Googled it, this is a real law, you can't name your pig Napoleon. You can't do it. That's illegal. You'll go to jail. The freedoms that we have here, they are so special. They are so unique. And guess what? We should love the differences that we have because you can't say those differences elsewhere. Did you know if you went to Canada and to try to preach a sermon, you'd go to jail? You can do that here. You think the American dream's not real? Trust me, it is. Look at me. I don't mean that from an arrogant perspective and saying, look, I'm awesome. What I'm trying to tell you, men and women, don't believe my resume because it's awesome. Because you know what my resume doesn't say? The first memory of my dad was seeing him go to jail. I'm not being figurative. 5 years old in the back of my grandma's town car. I'll never will forget us stopping because we're pulling in the parking lot and there was a chain gang of 8 convicts in orange jumpsuit together, and we had to stop to let them pass, and I locked eyes with my dad. That's my first memory. My grandmother, her son, she's crying in front of me. He was going from county lockup to the courthouse to get sentenced to jail. My mom, she was already in jail. So I went from that little kid. Now I have no parents, and I go to these grandparents who I don't know. And they live in this redneck town called Groesbeck, Texas. 3,500 people, but a $10 million football field. That's what it's like. And if you've ever been in small towns, guess what? It's not an aspirational place, is it? Boy, you don't get up and go to fun. You get up and go to work. Right? Get your head out of the clouds. Go out there to that hay field and go bale some hay. In fact, when I joined the military, it wasn't because I had a full ride to Harvard, because that was the only thing I knew that would get me out of there. Right? So I'll go from that kid to joining the Army to one day donning the most coveted green beret that I've ever thought, to one day being in the Oval Office with the president, and next day on stage with another president, now having a company where all I do is hire vets. That happened here in America. Let's go. Right? Why? I don't blame people for my problems. I'm not a victim, I'm a victor. Isn't that right? That we won the jackpot of being born here. And that life is hard, and that's good. That I don't care what my problems are, I'm going to put my head down, and I'm going to go to work, and it's all going to come out. Good or bad, but I'm going to go to work. That's what I want to talk about, being a part of something that's bigger than you. That it's not just about your feelings, it's about your teammates. It's about your workmates. It's about your homemates. Men, I'm going to be real with you. Who here works harder at the office than they do at home? Who here cares more about where their kids go to college than who they're going to pray to at night? I know, I've seen me do it. Find what matters. Tell yourself priorities. Because if not, you're going to wake up one day and realize you're a stranger in your own house. It's going to feel weird when your kids hug you because they don't know what real love feels like. But this pain that I deal with teaches me that love and teaches me every day is a blessing and to go out and grab it by the horns and go be awesome. So be a part of something that's bigger than you. The last thing, and this one's real quick, but it's the most significant. I want you to be worth it. I want you to be worth those names that will never come home. I want you to be worth this leg that will never grow back. The holidays that I never got. The birthdays I never saw. My kids I saw my first kid's birthday in the hospital. Because I'm telling you, like I said before, I don't say you're welcome. I say you're worth it. What you're doing here today, it's worth it. What they put together for you to help learn and educate yourself, this is worth it. The drive here and all that you have to deal with, I promise you, it's worth it. So thank you so much. God bless you.